Hello world! WayofTime here, bringing to you another episode of Blood Magic Developer Commentaries. Today we're going to talk about some of the new revamped systems, not just going to be talking about completely new systems like we did last time with the Hellfire Forge, but we're going to talk about systems that have been completely reworked past their, well, recognizable state into something a little more interesting, to say the least. So there's two systems I want to get through in this episode. I want to go through the new incense mechanic, as well as how you operate it, how to make it better, what the heck this abomination is over here. Spoiler alert, it's the incense system. And then we can get into something a little more substantial and that everybody will probably want to have a set of later on when you're playing around with blood magic, and that's the living armor set right here. And as the name suggests, it's quite interesting. But let's get into the blood magic incense system to start with. So in the previous versions of the mod, the blood magic incense system used some sort of crucible. I'm just going to place this to represent the crucible, even though it's no longer the crucible. You have this crucible, you feed in some sort of incense, so raw consumable that you want to, well, consume, and then it would boost your self-sacrifice through magic and power and determination. It will fill you with all of those stuff, especially the last thing. Though saving the state is not as easy as people make let on. Anyways, so it was a bit of a patchwork system and went against the spirit of the system and how it was supposed to be. But this system is supposed to remedy this. So in this current version of the mod, the blood magic incense system is supposed to represent basically, let's put it this way. In order to increase your self-sacrifice amount, you need to put your mind and soul into a tranquil environment, calming yourself and your soul, relaxing, so that you're able to sacrifice a large amount of health in the form of LP all in one go. And the incense system is supposed to exemplify this. So right here we have an incense altar. Obviously it's not really doing much in its present state, and that's because we still need a bit of stuff in order to make blood magic incense great again. Let's get that started, and then we can, once we expand on this, explain more of the in-depth mechanics. So here we have our run-of-the-mill incense altar. And this basically is the centerpiece of all that you're going to be doing, well, with the incense altar. So you just want to place it here, and it does not need the 3x3 stone platform in order to operate. That's mainly a decorative. So I'm thinking that what I'm going to have eventually is you'll need to have some structural elements in order to help facilitate this, but for now, it's not really necessary, at least in the way that I'm talking about, and I'm probably just confusing a few people, so I'll just move onwards. So if you right-click with the divination sigil, you'll see that the current tranquility of this incense altar is 0, but the current bonus is plus 20%. So if we were to go over and plop down a blood altar, game mode 0, and we take our dagger of sacrifice, or rather our sacrificial dagger, hold right click and release, we'll sacrifice 90% of our health for a large amount of LP. As you can see, it's currently going into the output buffer of the blood altar. And we got 20 seconds of soul fray that we're going to have to work with. So soul fray in this version, currently there's no buffing or debuffing the blood armor or whatever you want to call it, but we'll get into that in a second. But current essence 0, yeah. So it sacrificed 9% of your health, and as you saw, you got more than the 9 hearts worth inside of here. Now, as you saw, the incense altar will slowly flame up, so let me just sacrifice again. Will slowly flame up if someone inside of the incense altar's range, which is a 5 block radius away from this incense altar, if someone is within that range who hasn't been filled up all the way so that their sacrificial dagger is glowing, it will put flame sparks out. And if there's no flame particles here, it shows that the person is ready to fully sacrifice their LP. You can see 3613, and we have 5773. So that is more. I don't have a calculator on me at the moment to tell you that's exactly 20% more than the 1,800, I think, LP that you're supposed to get. But anyways, trust me on this. I'm a doctor. Not a professor, just a doctor. So, you saw, there's current tranquility here. And what is that about? So, the tranquility is basically a measure of how tranquil the area is. If you want to be specific, how tranquil the incense altar believes that the area is. Because the more tranquil the area is, the more LP you should be able to sacrifice. Seems good, right? So let's get into that. So we're going to need path blocks in order to extend, let's set day, in order to extend the area of influence of the incense altar, you're going to need to have path blocks to extend its range, in effect upgrading the incense altar in an interesting way. So the tier 1, and I'm using air quotes here, a path block is the wooden path. And it's just simply wooden planks with an apprentice blood orb. So this is considered a tier 1 construction. These are tier 2 construction if you want to go for blood altar level, but let's not talk about that. So wooden paths, if you search path, there are 8 different paths, 4 different subtypes, with each subtype having a plank or brick version and a tile. These ones are considered done, just that we need to work on the recipes, etc. of the tiled wooden paths, etc. The wooden texture is still a work in progress. Anyways, let's give ourselves some of this, and let's extend it by 1 block of influence. So it refreshes every 10 seconds, I think. So now you can see it's starting to flame up, and the current tranquility around this area is 2.4 instead, and we're getting a current bonus of plus 36%. We can extend it 1 more. And wait a bit for the flames to indicate that it's a lot stronger, basically trying to top us off, and we have plus 50%. And if we do a bit more, these are wood, by the way, so I would need an axe. But I'm just going to use my fist because that's a lot faster. We can see that we're at 6.7 tranquility and a current bonus of plus 60%. So, what in this area is considered the tranquil part? The grass is considered to add to the tranquility of the altar. So for simple builds, you can just have grass blocks and it will be all good. So let's actually talk a bit more mechanics so that it's not too confusing, and for the people who want to metagame the hell out of this, they can go right ahead. I'll give you all the tools you need to know. So a path block is, well, you need 3 path blocks per side, and the entire ring for that particular extension from the incense altar needs to all be on the same level for it to be considered 1 extra ring. So for instance, If we were to look at this incense altar, 2 blocks away from it, we need 3 path blocks on the side, and they all need to be the same level. As you can see, since it's flat, they're all the same level. If we were to have them instead, let's just go here. If we were to instead have them up a level, if we right-click this, you can see that it's no longer an appropriate configuration. It's not going to work. As soon as we bump them back down to the level lower and take this out of the way, we'll see that it is now considered a full ring. That's one part. Part number 2 that you'll need to know is that on the ring, it will search on its level plus 2 blocks above it for any tranquility blocks. So it'll search this level, and this level for things that it's considering tranquility blocks. Dirt, grass, farmland, they're considered earthen tranquility blocks. You'll probably know why later, why there's a You'll probably know why later why there's a certain designation for why it's an earthen tranquility block. Designation, if you will. And also, I said the same level. The ring can be on the same level. So if we were to instead bump these path blocks down a ring, as long as they're on the same level and within a Y level of 5 within the previous ring, if we wait a bit and wait for it, spam, 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 as you can see, it got back to its previous tranquility. It's not as high because we're missing a bit of tranquility over here, but it's a bit more acceptable. So if we were to replace this all with grass, it should go back to its plus 60% once we get the tranquility back high again. Get the tranquility high again. I already made that joke. So I said it's within 5. So let's show an interesting construction you can make with this. So here is one type of incense altar construction you could have, and it is a perfectly valid way to do things. If you right click, you can see that the tranquility, it's 6.7, and it has a plus 60% current bonus. You can obviously change it a bit, make it a bit more pleasing to the eye, but that's basically up to the player. There's enough flexibility, at least if you have them ringed. I might, let's not talk about mites in this case. Yeah, they're discussing things. Mites. Anyways, there should be enough flexibility for people to make a bunch of different types of designs for their incense altars, so it's not a blight on the landscape. I consider this an interesting way to do things, so you can just have an incense blood altar, maybe even below this construction, and it should be perfectly valid. So let's continue this and try to extend it one more block. I'm just breaking this so that we can get to the next tier, and then we should be good. So as I mentioned before, the wooden paths are only able to extend the incense altar by 3 blocks in total. So if you were to add more and more and more wooden path blocks, it would not be able to function at all in this case. Man, it gets to nighttime too quickly in this world. There's probably a command to fix that, but anyways. So wooden paths won't be able to get it. But if you use stone bricks, you're able to extend it an additional 2 blocks for some added tranquility. You can mix and match them, or you can have them completely just stone brick paths. And if we right click, we can see that it's now a current bonus, a plus 96% with a current tranquility of 10.95. I'm actually going to, for my own amusement, see what happens if we extend this one more. What was the current tranquility? 10.95. So this these blocks basically are able to extend it a total of 5 past, and as you can see, it can only go the 5 path past. Adding an extra layer will not extend its tranquility reach, so don't bother to go with that. Now, as I said, this isn't actually the maximum tranquility you can get for this particular level. And that's because grass blocks, while they are good for adding a bit of tranquility, they're not the best at adding tranquility. Now, there are a bunch of different things that the incense altar considers tranquil. For instance, we can add water to the mixture. Everything is better with a bit of water. Drink some today. Yes, sirree. So let's add a construction where we're just adding a bit of water around here. And you can see we got 15.51 tranquility just by adding a bit of water to one of the sides. And with a bit of moditude, we're able to transform our tranquility altar to a nice little water-gated area that has a decent reach. Now these stone brick paths, as you can probably tell, are tier 3 because they require a magician's blood orb in order to operate. So to get plus 120% sacrifice boost, you're going to need a lot. So game mode 0, nothing in the altar, hold right click, and you can see we have about 4,000 LP in there, which is more than double the LP you're supposed to get, which means that this is indeed working, while giving us soul phrase so we can't just cheese the entire process. Now, obviously we have enough tranquility to set the current bonus to its maximum for this particular path length, but we are able to increase the tranquility a bit more. So if we get a hoe here, when we get hoe here, that'll be a bit better. We can get some carrots. Yeah, some nice refreshing carrots. Just add a nice little tranquil plot of carrots on our side. And once we have the farmland down and the carrots down, we can see that the tranquility is now at 19.26. Now I've been skirting around the edges trying to hint at what the reason why the tranquility is increasing a lot more by adding all these random stuff, but let's actually get down to business. So there are a bunch of different types of tranquility you're able to add to the incense altar, and the more different types of tranquility blocks you have on here, the better the overall tranquility is going to be. So for instance, we have 3 different types of tranquil blocks here. We have water, which is glitching with the farmland for some reason. Obviously their issue, not mine. So we have water, we have earthen, which is the grass blocks, dirt blocks, or even farmland blocks, and we also have the crop blocks. So those are 3 different types of tranquility we have. There are other types of tranquility you can have. There's trees, there's foliage, which means leaves, so you can have some nice hedges, and there's also sugar cane. I think grass is considered the foliage, so it's more of a plantable type of thing. You can have life essence, which is in the same category as water, but it gives a better boost. And you can also have lava or fire. So netherrack, fire, that's one type, and lava is a different type altogether. And it's more efficient to have several different types of tranquility instead of just trying to rely on one, because it works on a square root basis. So if you have 20, let's go with this, an easy example. 40 farmland blocks are equivalent to 10 crop blocks and 10 farmland blocks. That's how we can break it down. So that's basically the basics of how to do the incense altar. There are obviously ways to improve this, Let's get a few building materials just to show some things that you can do with this, and then we can continue with something a bit more substantial. So I definitely wouldn't say this is an attempt at any sort of aesthetic beauty, but it gets the job done. A bit of crops, a bit of water, a bit of half-baked foliage maze. Yeah, I never said I'm exactly pretty. That's why I stole a bunch of texture artists. Anyways, we can see that we get a large amount of tranquility from this setup. In fact, so much so I'm probably going to need to buff the amount of tranquility required to get to specific tiers. But anyways, we get plus 200% from our blood altar, which is a snazzy amount. Now, you can obviously make this a lot more interesting by having a nice... You can have an inverted pyramid, you can have a pyramid, you can have a bunch of floating rings that are disjointed from each other. There's a lot of options that you are able to make, and I just realized that it is a big F. F for foliage. So, now that the incense altar is well explained, basically I use some nice worn stone, which is the tier 4 stuff. Recipe pending, I do believe. Then there's the tier 5 stuff, which is the obsidian walkway, which will grant an even better boost. And basically, let's get on with it and talk about living armor. Man, I can't believe we talked so much about the incense altar, and there's still a lot more I could probably add about it. But let's actually get on to the more interesting thing, which is the living armor. Living armor, if we want to go with some sort of technical term, yeah, let's not look at those. Living armor is basically a symbiotic entity that you summon forth to grow alongside you as you go through your daily mundane tasks, training yourself as well as your armor to become better, more powerful, more resilient, more awesome as a general talking point. So let's look at it. Living armor, to make it, you're going to need to do the binding ritual, which we showed off. I think we showed off last time. If not, let's actually show that off. I'm pretty sure I did, but it goes to show that it's probably a good thing. We also need a binding reagent, and we're going to need our living armor. Let's check recipe, grab one of you to make fun big booms. Right, and there we go. We have our nice binding ritual that's going to go and do a bunch of lightning. Pretty lightning. Lots of lightning. And it's going to coalesce and give ourselves a living chestplate. So let's give ourselves everything else that we need here. And as you can see, it's nice and cozy. Basically, this is the replacement for the bound armor. Bound armor is not going to come back in all of its OP glory. You're going to have this, which you're going to have to train. Now, living armor, because you saw the recipe, it starts off at iron level capabilities. It's not very good, it's not the best, probably not even that good to fight with, but as you'll learn from working with it, it becomes a valuable and very versatile tool in order for you to do a lot of mundane tasks and also a lot more interesting tasks. So as you can see, I'm just running around with it right now. And any minute now, you're going to see a fun little thing come up. There we go. Upgrade acquired. And as you can see, I'm running a bit faster. So the living armor upgrades itself by tuning itself to what you're doing. So right now, I've been running around a lot. And because I was running around a lot, your armor has become a lot quicker and is thus able to move faster while you are in it. So, it has a quick feet upgrade, which grants plus 10% speed. Now, speed is an interesting thing where a lot of people scoff at a small percentage like plus 10%, but it adds up over time. Level 2 would even give even more speed, level 3 even more, and so on and so forth. So, there are currently a few living armor upgrades available in the version that I am using right now. However, I have a lot of living armor upgrades that are planned and are definitely going to get added, but let's look at the ones that we have here. We have Quick Feet, so level 10 will give you a large amount of speed, but let's look at them normally. So Quick Feet, as you saw, let's give one of each, I think. We're not going to be able to show these off, are we? Because they're the level 10 ones, and you'll see why we're not going to be able to use those in a second. So let me give myself some level 1 of each upgrade. So the currently implemented upgrades are Quick Feet, which makes you faster. As you can see, it makes me 10% faster, but the more I train, by training, let's see, you train each and every single upgrade by a variety of methods. Quick Feet, as you saw, is trained by running around quite a bit, basically tracking the total distance you have moved on the ground. Tough Palms is a self-sacrifice upgrade. When you sacrifice LP to the altar, you are able to basically toughen your palms so you have a higher sacrifice yield when you use the sacrificial dagger on yourself. The Dagger of Sacrifice, you won't get any sort of LP upgrade by sacrificing other entities. It's just on yourself. You'll be able to get better and better LP. And I already told you how you train that. Fierce Strike. The more you damage entities, the stronger your attacks will become. So if we were to, let's add this. So we upgrade Acquire. We got Tough Palms level 1 on our armor by right-clicking this level upgrade tome. And this is only through JEI or Creative. Creative to get every single level. Anyways, so Quick Feet, Tough Palms. Fierce Strike gives us 0.5 attack damage. So our strikes get a little stronger the more we damage entities. Dwarven Might. Shovel will be helpful for this. So when we dig stuff normally, you can see that it's about this speed. When we have Dwarven Might, which is trained by digging things, you can see that we become a lot faster. And this is because we add a haste buff temporarily every time you break blocks. So it's gone. Takes slightly longer to break the first block than it does the second, and the third and subsequent. So you get faster when you dig blocks. Subsequent levels of this will add a haste buff, so a speed buff, so you'll become a lot faster for a temporary amount of time once you dig a block, which could be very interesting in fights where you'd dig a block to run away from a creeper or stuff like that. Basically, if you dig a lot of blocks, you're going to be able to be a lot faster when you dig blocks. Poison resistance is an interesting one. If we use that and take a poison potion right here, it takes away the poison potion away and displays a message you are starting to feel better. This is on a cooldown, so if you get poisoned again very quickly, you're going to suffer the consequences. And this is trained by, you guessed it, getting poisoned and managing to live through the horrible, horrible, horrible effect that it does cause. Come on. So if you're fighting cave spiders, if you have a high enough poison resistance level, it will be good. Trick Shot I'm going to leave for later. Tough Skin, kind of like Tough Palms, kind of like Fierce Strike, but you basically get better damage resistance the more damage you take in. Healthy, if you can see, I now have 2 extra hearts, and this is gained by healing health while you have the Living Chestplate arm on. And this last one is Bodybuilder, trained by eating a lot. And you can see on the bottom rung there, I have +2 in knockback resistance, which is +20% in knockback resistance. So if you have bodybuilder level 5, you'll have 100% knockback resistance, meaning arrows, sword strikes, etc. will not knock you back. These are vanilla stuff, and it's interesting. And there's a lot more different types of upgrades that are on the line, on the road. There's going to be one for fall damage, fire damage, magic damage, projectiles, and explosions. It's going to be teleport mastery, lightning attunement, step assist, jump boost, green thumb, which aids in growing things, treasure finder, experienced, grim reaper sprint, night sight, fury of the night, and solar powered, as well as pursuit and meteor jump. Some of those, let's just say you're going to have to figure out by yourself once we get to it, though I imagine by then a few lovely individuals are going to figure those out themselves. They should be self-explanatory, but it should be interesting nonetheless, whether people get them. So the last one I want to show off is Trick Shot, which is going to require me to get another living armor chestplate, and Trick Shot level 3. So let's talk a bit more about the living chestplate before we get onto this. So, as you saw, I didn't go for the highest upgrade. That's because upgrades cost a hidden value called upgrade points. The base living armor, at the time of this video, has 100 upgrade points available. And these upgrade points are consumed, obviously, when you get upgrades. And the more upgrades you have, the more it's going to cost. So you'll only be able to have so many upgrades on your armor. You cannot catch them all, at least on one set of armor. It'd be lovely, but at that point you could become really, really overpowered if you were to get all the upgrades at the max level, like all the upgrades I mentioned. Because I'm planning to add a lot more upgrades. So, it's going to be 100 points maximum, and yeah, subsequent levels of upgrades cost subsequently more upgrade points. So for instance, speed level 1 will cost 3 points, speed level 2 7 points, speed level 3 I think is like 13 points, and it progressively increases on a slightly exponential scale, but it basically, wow, just walking around like that gave me a quick feat. It'll go up and up slowly in price. And that basically means, for those math people out there, it's a lot easier to get a bunch of low-level upgrades than it is to get just a few high-level upgrades. And it might be more beneficial to be a jack of all trades rather than basically a king in one or two. Let's talk about one of my favorite upgrades here. Trick Shot. As the name implies, it basically trains your archery skill by making you more adept at archery. As you can see here, just simple firing an arrow. I make arrows appear. Gonna need to add the FLV effects on the sentient bow. Add it to the to-do list. But with Trick Shot, things get a little interesting. So you train this by firing your bow. And once you get adept at the bow firing, you fire multiple arrows at once. These other arrows are not able to be picked up. So if we go up to the wall, you'll only get some of those arrows. And they're spread out kind of like a shotgun pattern. So if you see the sentient bow, it'll spawn regular arrows because there's no way to detect mod bows. The sentient arrow is right in the middle where I fired, and it shows the arrows in a pattern around it. If I just keep on firing the bow at the same location, you can see that a pattern starts to form, and it looks like a person. Trump the Trump. And just keeps on going, keeps on going. You can train it more and more by firing more and more arrows until you're an arrow shooting wizard. Basically, if you want to shotgun things from a distance, this might be one of the more interesting upgrades to acquire. Plus, it kind of just looks cool when you fire hell on someone from a long distance. Ooh, 1 second. Da 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 da. Talk about firing hell. And yes, enchantments work on these arrows. Well, that's all the time we had for this episode of Blood Magic Developer Commentary. If you like what you see, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe to future episodes. I would hate to be the skeleton on the other end of this barrage. WayofTime here, signing off. Have a wonderful day. Man, they will not see what's coming. Well, they will, considering that they're ignited arrows of fire.